in Maine. Why must I chase the cat?
Good evening and welcome to Pound Posse Presents. I don't know if anybody heard that one. I said I can't see, my hair needs to be cut, but you know, it is what it is. We're here tonight and you know, thank God for the 3-second delay sometimes, I think. Anyway, I want to start tonight with a little thank you to my guest last week, Donna Velarde, who was really quite interesting. She's a pet psychic, but she also, if you were watching, or you know, if you're going to watch, because I think you should, she also can do people. And she talked about how she can read pictures, and you know, I've had an experience with her already, so I have a comfort level, but I kind of bushwhacked her after the show off camera and pulled out a picture, pulled up my Facebook page, because really, where would we be without our smartphones and our Facebook pages? But I handed her the picture of my mother and me, which is my profile picture for anyone who knows me on Facebook. And, you know, I asked her, just plain and simple, what can you tell me? And without getting into a lot of details, she knocked it out of the park. I mean, she really did. So I have to thank her because she was quite gracious. She didn't, you know, she didn't have to, but she did tell me what her perceptions were. And like I said, she knocked it out of the park. And she went, you know, above and beyond and told me some other stuff that, you know, she got her vibes on. And I have to say, you know, again, thank you. And I think that she's wonderful, and you really should check her out. Zodia Pet, Donna Velarde. Pretty cool. Anyway, I'm going to start tonight with a couple of dogs that are in a bind. If we can bring up my friend Bingo, we're going to show him to you guys. And there he is, Bingo. He is about 2 years old. He's neutered. He's very friendly. Everybody says he's a really, really good boy. He needs out like ASAP. He's in boarding right now. He was taken in by the Prospect Animal Control, and they don't really have a facility. So he is in boarding in Wolcott. He's in private boarding. You know, there's a lot of talk about getting him out. They were trying to find, you know, see if they can get him redeemed by his owner. You know, there's been some confusion as to how long he has. There was some talk that he was going to just be killed today. There was some talk about, you know, Monday was his deadline. There's some women who are posting on Helping Connecticut Canine's page about getting him out, but I really would very much like to get him out there and get him up there and get him in front of the public eye. You know, he may have an owner. I mean, how for a neutered male to be out and running around, somebody cared once. Who knows what happened? But, you know, if he's yours, by all means, get him. If you can take this boy in as a foster, or, you know, you want to adopt him, by all means, he needs it. Just because people are, you know, trying to step up and help out doesn't mean that, you know, it's a permanent arrangement, or that if you're interested, you wouldn't come first. So by all means, call Prospect Animal Control, 203-758-6150. You know, Bingo seems to like other dogs. He seems just like such a good boy. And look at that face. I mean, he's stuck in a boarding facility, you know, in a crate. Come on, that's like, that's a lot less than a pound even gives you, is a crate, you know? I mean, so Bingo, B-I-N-G-O, and Bingo is his name-o. Get him out of there. Yeah, okay, I'm prone to a case of the sillies every now and then. So we're going to switch gears here. One of my dear Facebook friends, Marie Marsh, brought this dog to my attention. Her name is Sadie, and she is a ward of Hamden Animal Control. Sadie has been at the pound since November 2nd of last year. That's an incredibly long time. I give the pound kudos for not doing anything ugly and not keeping her, but she certainly has spent a very great big long time waiting for someone to come along and scoop her up. Unfortunately, at this point, they're only giving her till the end of the month. So that's really just a couple of weeks, if that. And, you know, really, for a dog to have held out this long, only to lose the battle to try to find forever, is really a shame. Now, she does need to be the only dog, which puts a damper on things, you know, but it doesn't mean that that's like a forever thing. I mean, right now she's been cooped up. Who knows where she came from. Other dogs can be very intimidating, especially when you're in a pound environment and you don't know where these poor dogs have come from. But she does crave attention. She loves people. You know, she's a good girl, or they really wouldn't have given her this long if she wasn't. But Sadie is in Hamden, and they do not have a facility, so you do have to make an appointment to see her. Please don't let her die at the end of the month. That would be a shame that she really held on this long for nothing. The number to call is 203-230-4080, and that's for Sadie in Hamden. Now, we're going to give us back our screen here, and yep, we're going to get rid of Sadie. Sorry, I got scrambling. Okay, yep, good. Poor Zach can't hear me. I'm like trying to wave at my friend John here, and it's like, you know, the window of it's like the cone of silence, you know. Remember the old Get Smart, the cone of silence? It's like I'm trying to talk into the booth, and for some reason it's just not coming through. But anyway, on the bright side, Waldo, our dear Waldo, who we've spoken about for weeks and weeks and weeks, has finally gone home. He was adopted this week. He had gone down to the wire where last week was his date, and he had 2 viable applications and an offer from a rescue, and he ended up going home, and so that's a beautiful thing, and happy trails to Waldo. Please check out the City of Hartford Animal Shelter page on Facebook. They have a lot of urgents this week. You know, they have a slightly different setup than some of the other pounds, and I've explained this before. They have a 10-day stray hold, and on the 10th day, that's it. The dog does not have any more time. It's not about space. It's not about anything else. It's just, you know, that 10th day, that's it. By 3 o'clock, if they're not homed, fostered, something, anything, out of there, they're done. So follow Hartford, people, and don't let that happen. A lot of this information you can get on a Facebook page run by a dear woman, dear friend of mine, Judy, Helping Connecticut Canines. So if you're on Facebook and you haven't liked that page yet, by all means do, because there's a lot of good information on there, and dingoes are not included. Anyway, I just got to look. That's a little inside thing at this point. But this week, my Bochy, he turned 10, and he now joins Duke in seniordom, I guess you would call it. And they're 4 months apart, and, you know, it's a wonderful thing to have anyone or any animal in your life for that long. You know, they were really rough when they were puppies. I got Duke at about 8 weeks old, and, you know, several months later I got Bochy, who was 3 or 4 months old, and they were like having twins, you know. They were rough. They were no joke, as puppies can be, you know. Puppies require a lot of, you know, training and attention, and I had it double barrel. And now I have 2 wonderful, calmer, not calm, but calmer, more calm dogs that, you know, are just such a big part of my life. And I have to ask the question, these days, how many people have a dog that they have had into its old age? You know, more and more people treat dogs as disposable, as throwaways, as garbage. And, you know, you look at all of these young dogs that get put up on Craigslist, but now we're finding so many more of the seniors that are turning up in shelters and pounds. You know, they're older, they're blind, they're this, they're that, they might be deaf, they're slightly disabled. They're just old, and it's heartbreaking to see them turn up in a state of abandonment. You know, it makes you really question people. What, they're no more fun? You know what I mean? They're not, you want a puppy again, so you want to get rid of, and I hate that term, I never use it, but that's what these people are doing. They're getting rid of, like it was garbage, an animal that was a part of their life for so long, you know? You have to realize that quite often the seniors are the first ones to be killed because everybody looks them over. You know, everybody wants a puppy, everybody wants a young dog, everybody wants the playful, you know, jumping around crazy dog until it's jumping around and crazy, and then that dog ends up being kicked to the curb. But, you know, can you just imagine, you know, an animal has spent 7, 8, 10 more years with a family, and how they must feel just to be abandoned like that, you know? The confusion that they must feel, that sense of loneliness and betrayal. I can't imagine after having Duke and Bochy for, you know, 10 years, their whole lives, and just, you know, saying, peace, I can't do it anymore. You know, people have situations, I understand, where, you know, you're losing your home or something earth-shattering, but to turn them into a pound, you know, just the total abandonment like that, it's just incredible to think that people would turn their back on a family member, you know. And a lot of these dogs are turning up in the pounds as strays. So really, what are you doing? You're just opening your door and letting an old blind dog or an old trusted, you know, a family member who's trusted you all its life, you're just letting it go, and, you know, whatever happens, happens, and peace, be gone. I can't imagine that. You know, if a lot of these dogs will come in and they'll have some kind of medical issue or something, that's no reason to abandon an animal. You know, if you have a dog or a cat that has a medical issue, try to seek some kind of help. Try to work out some kind of something. Don't just abandon it and leave it in a shelter, because really what's going to happen is it's going to be passed over because it might be sick and it might have issues, and it's going to die alone, suffering in the hands of strangers who really don't care about your dog. And that's just the worst thing of all. You know, if you can't do anything else, try to make an arrangement at least to humanely end that dog's suffering instead of just dumping it off and letting whatever happen, because it's not right. It's not right to abandon any animal, but you've got to take into consideration, you know, a senior. It's just a whole different world. And to have a senior in your life, to take a senior into your home, it's like so no big deal. If you don't want to have to go through all of that crazy puppy training and, you know, chewing on stuff and messing up your house, a senior is the way to go. You know, people balk at the idea of a lot of things, and sometimes it's fair and just, and sometimes it's not. But if you have space in your home and in your heart, and you can do it, a senior dog is so much easier to manage than a puppy. I mean, it's usually just wants a couch to crash on and a place to live out its life. A lot of these older dogs, yeah, they've got spunk to them, but it's not a question of the same type of thing that a puppy would need from you, the same type of training and discipline. You know, there may be bumps in the road if you take in an older dog because their routine is broken up, that, you know, they, for all you know, for many years things were done a certain way and nobody likes change. So the same thing would go for a dog. You know, when I took Kelly in, she was 5, and that's not exactly seniordom, but that's established in her ways and whatever, but she had some behavioral issues when I took her in, and we straightened it out when we got to know each other. It's a learning curve, just like anything else. You know, you take in an adult dog, a senior dog that's had any kind of life behind it. You know, puppy not so much, because they don't know. They're looking to you to train them. But there might be a bump in the road or two, but that's not cause to, you know, turn around and dump it. And sure, there can be, you know, expenses with an older dog that, you know, if it has medical issues or whatever. But there's the same thing with puppies, because really it's a foolish excuse to use, because you still have to go through all of the puppy expense of spay and neuter and vaccinations and getting them, you know, ready for the life ahead. Now you're just taking care of the other end. And sometimes, you know, a dog can be pretty healthy right through to the end of its life, and then just all of a sudden something happens, and it is what it is. But it's really excuses that people make just not to have to deal with a thing. It's a perception thing. You know, you get an older dog that runs into a medical situation, you take into consideration the age of that dog, and really you're not going to be a hero and try to save it or make it young again or fix it. You have to be smart about that too, as cold as that may sound. You know, you really can't, you've got to go for that quality of life, and a lot of people have a hard time even with that, because they're selfish about trying to want to hang on for too long and all. But you know, there are good people out there that will take these seniors in, and I'll tell you, I would, at this point in my life, I'm all set with the whole puppy thing. You know, I mean, I can't lie. You know, Mojo's young. He's going to be 2 next month, but he's not like a puppy, and he came like almost to where he needed to be, and we've come a long way even with that. But there are people who are willing to take in these seniors, and I have to give a little shout out to someone who is a hero, and her name is Laurel, and she's that kind of person who has taken in her share of seniors, and she has had 3 big hurtful losses this year, and I know she can't wait for this year to be over, because your heart can only break so many times. And you know, you could ask, why would she do it? You know, she's setting herself up for heartbreak. And that's another thing. That's another selfish thing that people say, oh, you know, I'm not going to have them long enough and this and that. That's nonsense. This woman is a hero, because she takes in these dogs, and, you know, whether it's a year or a couple of years or whatever it is, they're on the older side. They would have died in the shelter. And here she is pouring her heart and her love into these animals, and she lost another one, poor Stanley, and he was, again, you know, this senior in a pound that everybody was overlooking, and he would have died if it wasn't for her. Same with, you know, a number of animals that she's taken in, and ironically, she's, again, already taken in, before this happened with Stanley, another dog who is on the older side and may not have a great medical outlook. So, you know, she's a saint, and there are people who can and will do it, and I give her like total kudos, and she is a hero, because she knows what she's setting herself up for, and she should be the example to a lot of people. And you know, my heart breaks for you, Laurel. I'm sorry for all of your heartbreak, because I can relate. But she'd be the first one to tell you how rewarding it is to take these guys and just, you know, love them to death, literally, you know, until their last breath. Give them that comfort, that place that they're seeking, that just their home for the last days of their lives, however long that may be. They're home, and they're not, you know, they're not dying the way they could die. They're dying with love and with someone who cares and a family, and I think that's really important. But you know, that's kind of like my rant for seniors, and that all started because my boys are both 10 now. Anyway, I was in a retail pet store this week, and it was a very interesting experience on a lot of fronts. I was checking out, and a group of young men came busting in through the door and, you know, like practically assaulted the cashier. you have puppies, you have kittens. And I'm like, okay. If this was a train ride, I'd like hit the emergency brake, like, whoa, why are you looking for puppies and kittens? And apparently one of the young men got a bee in his bonnet, and he decided he wanted a puppy or a kitten or something. He wanted a pet. Well, unfortunately for them, or maybe fortunately for them, I started in. My first thing was, you know, as I was unloading my carriage, yeah, my first thing was, and why would you want to buy a puppy or a kitten when so many animals are dying in shelters? And they kind of looked at me like, huh? It's when you're so wrapped up into something, when you're so involved in a cause, you kind of really don't remember that other people might not even realize it. And these kids had no idea. Like, well, what do you mean animals are dying in shelters? It's because people aren't adopting them when they're buying puppies and kittens. So I literally, as I finished checking out, spent probably the better part of the next 20 minutes with these guys in the front of the store, giving them the Cliff Notes, I guess you would call it, the short version, cramming into their brains all of the reasons why they wouldn't want to buy, that they would want to adopt. You know, the kid wanted a puppy, and I went into all the reasons why he might want to rethink that if he didn't have proper time, if he didn't want to deal with everything that a puppy would bring into his life, you know, the commitment, the training, the house training, the whole thing about, you know, your stuff is no longer your stuff, because if you're not careful, your puppy's going to chew it. You know, I went through all that. They had some really valid questions about shelters and pounds and rescues versus pounds, and it was actually kind of a pleasure to have a chance to have the conversation with these guys, because they really didn't know. I mean, I really wasn't sure when this whole thing started where they were coming from, but the kid just genuinely, his aunt had a dog and he thought it was a great thing, and you know, I asked him what kind he thought he wanted, and said, well, you know, that dog's got a lot of energy and you're gonna have to exercise it and this and that. And of course I finished with that whole, you know, a dog's going to get attached to you, and imagine how it's going to feel if you don't have time for it anymore, and you know, you decide it has to go. And you know, there was a lot of good conversation, and it was very rewarding when the young man, I mean, obviously it was the one young man who wanted the pet, and his friends were just there because they were being friends. It was very rewarding when they thanked me for the information, and that, you know, he said he would really have to rethink it. Thank heavens that, you know, this particular chain does not sell puppies and kittens, and that I was kind of there, you know, not because I'm a hero, but because I was able to educate 4 young men about the choices that they could make, and the things that are out there in the world. I mean, they really, really and truly didn't know. And I guess that it would be an awesome thing if in everyone's travels they would learn to open up their mouths and exercise the right to free speech, or whatever you want to call it, and talk to people about these poor animals in the pounds. I mean, there's no reason why we can't all talk about things rationally, and you know, I didn't have an attitude with these guys, and they could have told me to, you know, take a hike or whatever, but you know, if you have the right approach and you don't seem like you're preaching to people, you know, I think that they're probably very receptive to what you have to say, unless of course they're just not nice people either. And we won't even get into that. But if you don't say something, you know, what could have happened if that place did have puppies and kittens, and you know, this kid actually did buy something, and it could have been a disaster. I mean, the kid's never had a dog before. He had no idea what he was getting into. And you can be very sure that there was probably nobody in the store that was going to give him even half an education, because I think we've all seen too many times, and there was something going on behind me, you know, oh yeah, I'm buying this little small animal, and you know, how long does the bedding last? Oh, well, you know, it'll last you a while. How about change it when it's dirty? I mean, you know, that would have been a great thing for the employee to say, but you know, whatever. You can't expect that the people in these stores care to the level that some of the rest of us do. And I'm rambling, and that's all right, because, you know, that's what I do. I just want to, we're kind of like winding down. I've got some little plan here with my friend of the show and friend personally, Mark. We're going to do a little bit to get some adoptable animals actually in the studio here. So that will be fun. We will have probably no small amount of trial and error in the beginning, but we've had animals on the show before, and it's worked out quite well. So we're going to try to make a regular feature of animals that will be up for adoption to come on, so you folks can see them, because that's something I've always wanted to do. And fortunately, Mark is talking to me about doing that. So I'm planning on we'll be able to do that, and it'll be a beautiful thing, because, you know, pictures are good, but real live animals are a whole lot better. Anyway, we've got 1 minute left, and I'm just going to babble because, like I said, I'm good at that. Please do make sure that you check out your local pounds and get involved. If there are dogs that need sharing and exposure, please do that on Facebook. It does save lives. The Wolcott Pound now has their own Facebook page, and you can go on to Facebook and help share them. The Newington Pound is another one that needs exposure. You've got all of these pounds that are still running pretty close to full, so by all means share and save a life. We've got credits, which means that I'm going to say peace, love, and dogs. And until next week, when who knows who I'll have on, I will say goodnight. So, good night, everybody. Just waiting for it to go dark.